Welcome back and thank you for joining me for another reaction video. If you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, then you'll get alerts when these go live. Now, it's not just any reaction day, is it? It feels a bit like Christmas. We finally built up to doing The Poet and the Pendulum by Nightwish, and I'd be lying if I said I had an easy time sleeping. Super geared up for this one, super excited, and really keen to do this one justice. Before we get into the song, I want to talk about the journey and the preparation to get to this point. So the first thing to tackle would be which song version we're going to be using. We're going to be using obviously the Live at Wembley, but we're going to be using the song with lyrics. I put a poll up. There were over 1,400 votes, slight majority to use the song with lyrics. But I do know that the people, I read the comments of the guys who didn't want the lyrics, and a lot of it was based on maybe it would be a distraction, maybe I'd focus too much on it, and I kind of agree with that. So what I did was I went and I read all the lyrics beforehand. By no means do I have anything memorized, but I did go through the lyrics. I saw on one or two of kind of the fandom sites where people had given their opinion or take on certain parts of that. So I am at least somewhat familiar with the lyrics, so I won't be focusing on them completely on the screen, and I'll be able to pay attention to the music as well. I've also got the lyrics on a separate screen up here, which I can reference if I need to. So that's all kind of taken care of. The next thing I did was actually, before reading the letter, the public letter, I went and looked at lucky enough to find some links to interviews with Tarja, and I saw just how taxing this was on her, how emotional the whole thing was, and gave me like a real sense of what the seriousness and severity of her departure from the band was. But let's go into the letters. I looked at both the letter from the band to Tarja and then her response to that. And obviously starts out, "Dear Tarja, it's time to choose whether the story of Nightwish ends here or whether it will continue an undetermined period of time." The first bit that I pulled out was where he speaks about her attitude and behavior that don't go with Nightwish anymore. The characteristics are, "I would never have believed to see in my old dear friend." I like that he refers to her as his old dear friend. He's obviously referring to her changing and having changed throughout the time in the band, and it's kind of not something that sits with the morals and values of the band anymore. People who do not talk to each other for a year do not belong in the same band. I know the importance of taking a break from your bandmates. I can imagine with these guys being on the road so much, that's probably even more important. But a year is a very long time, and it's not really conducive to collaboration and to chemistry, particularly when it comes to live performance and tours. He then goes on, the next bit I pulled out, "To you, unfortunately, business and money and things that have nothing to do with those emotions have become more important." So becoming a product of the machine, looking at all the nice rewards you get for doing this wonderful job, but them becoming more important in the music itself. The attitude was shown to me. This is really important. He says on a flight in Toronto, he says, she said she doesn't need Nightwish anymore. And remember, Thomas, I could leave the band at any time, giving you 1 day's warning in advance. And she also refers to herself as a guest musician in Nightwish, which you can see the distancing, and she was obviously looking to kind of make the move, but it's just one of those things where, because no party either side kind of called it off, it was just becoming an environment that was really not good for the band, probably not good for the fans, and was never going to really end well. He said, "In 9 years, you never came to rehearse the songs with us before going into studio." That's crazy to me. If that's accurate, then that is absolutely crazy to me, because studio is a difficult environment. It's where you go to try and replicate all the chemistry of the writing process, of the contributions that everyone made to the songs, to add your own personality and flair. And I know in my band, and please, I'm not comparing that because we were just some small band from SA and this is Nightwish, but having your bandmates in the studio for a large part of that, helping kind of on the spur of the moment provide opinions, uplift things, and create that energy the chemistry that you get on tours and playing live. So that part really shocked me. And he said the ultimate example is having a show sold out in Oslo, where she wanted to cancel because she wanted to rehearse for a solo concert. So that sounds really harsh, but if her mind is already drifting away from Nightwish and she's thinking about things like finance and thinking about her future, it's understandable why that would be a thought in her mind. It's not understandable why you'd want to cancel a sold out show to fans who pay dedicated fans who pay a lot of money to come and just watch you perform. I guess, again, I'm taking this letter for what it is. I don't know if any of this has been contested or anything, but I'm just taking it for what it is. And then the last bit where he says, "The decision is something we are not especially proud of, but you gave us no choice. The gap between us is too wide. The decision is made by all 4 of us unanimously. That's important. We are beyond a point where things could be settled by talking. All the best for your career. So he signs off quite formally, but he does make mention to it is a unanimous decision by all 4 members. But there's a lot in it that speaks to the personal nature of his relationship and the negative experiences that they had. He's speaking quite from his point of view, even though I do fully believe it was the band in its entirety that kind of made the decision. He's obviously one of the leaders, and he was quite hurt by this. I then saw that there was a sort of not rebuttal but response from Tarja, and she said, "This is the first bit I pulled out was." This is a moment of grief and pain, and I find it very hard to speak. So echoes what you see in some of the interviews in press. Last Friday, 21st of October, was a day the whole band had been waiting for a long time. Practice started early. I was very sick and nervous. This is going to be important later because of the fact that I was not able to sing during rehearsals. She then says, the 5 of us had finally made it to play the Heartwall Arena. I'll never forget how amazing it was to see the Finnish audience's gorgeous reception. She was obviously really nervous about the performance. Obviously, there's a lot of expectation from the singer in Nightwish, and if you're sick, that's always going to be difficult to do. So she had anxiety around that anyway. After the concert, the guys invited me backstage to join them and gave me a hug together. This felt strange, as it's traditionally something they do before concert. So there's always like little... not superstitions, but traditions that bands have before shows. Sometimes the members like to sit on their own and run through the set list. Sometimes they get a bit jokey. We always used to joke, hang out, and just have the biggest laugh, almost some points forgetting we were playing a show, because that's how we kind of, it just felt so, those nervous butterflies, we were able to direct them in the right direction. Here, they obviously come together, and they wanted that one more time because they knew it was about to happen. Then they delivered the letter to her and said, read it the next day, which is interesting. They didn't want her to do that there, obviously. It's not easy. I sense great anger in that letter, and I continue to have confused feelings about it. I don't want to reply in anger to anger with even greater anger. Private matters should never be taken public. I think there is a part of that where she's right. I think private matters should stay private. However, the band is not private. The band is public. So it's kind of like you completely understand why some of those things were aired to almost back up their reasoning, because fans might have not known anything was wrong up until this point. I'm sorry that the guys got me so wrong. So that's kind of her only rebuttal, her only direct, actually, no, this isn't me. But she doesn't refer to specific incidents. She says, I don't recognize myself from that at all, the way they describe me. We've been bandmates for 9 years, experienced good times and not so good ones. I thought I knew them, but I was wrong. So you can see this is stung, and she's, as much as she's been diplomatic, she's not wanting to hold back completely. She wants people to know how she feels about them too. Thanks a lot to the people who supported me during my sad times, my family, friends, colleagues, great number of fans. I love you, and I really feel I have not failed you. So that's important to her. Like, it seems by signing off that way, it's much more important to her that the fans understand that she did her best, at least in her mind, as opposed to any resolution with the band. So it kind of backs up a lot of the points to say, well, there really isn't any reconciliation in this available. It's just a really intense back and forth. Provides a lot of good context for the song for me, and really glad I went through all this beforehand. It's going to be something that kind of sits in the back of your mind when you listen to the music. The song is a long one, so I'm going to set everything up and get ready for that, and then we're going to dive straight in. But one thing I do want to say is I'm going to be paying attention to both the lyrics and the music. Well, at least I'm going to attempt to. I'm sure I won't get both perfect, but I really hope I do it justice and give you guys as fans at least a product that you really deserve, having kind of been on this journey with them for so long. But yeah, I'm going to be pausing as usual, looking at certain musical elements, talking about certain lyrical evidence and bits that come up on the screen. I know certain things like it was based on the poem by Edgar Allan Poe, the Pits and the Pendulum. I know the story of that, so that's going to be really important. And I now have context around the band, so I will be pausing, but I'll try not break up the flow too much. I appreciate you all. Let me set up and then we'll get going. It's been a long time coming, but I finally get to say this. Nightwish, the Poet and the Pendulum, live from Wembley. Let's see what you got. just a quick note there. I saw White Lands of Empathica. I know that's a reference to the Dark Tower, and there's something about a creature who feeds off emotions. I saw someone point that out, and I thought that was really poignant. Interesting to see how it starts off with the end, and the music is very dreamlike. It's very almost doesn't feel real, feels a bit surreal, like you're floating on clouds, calm before the storm, if you will. Come on now. Okay, I need to go back. They've done something like this before, but not on this scale, and I think it was incredibly impressive. When the song started out, it was chaotic. It was almost like this orchestral storm. There was a lot of erratic playing from Tuomas. There was a lot of accenting. The song started to build, but it built up and it started in a very chaotic way. And it's hard to evolve that chaos in terms of intensity. However, they found a really smart way of doing that. And it's all centered around the drums. Because as you start, you've got the accents playing on the keys, and you've got the bass kind of hitting those notes along with the drummer doing floor tom hits, right? That slowly builds into, he added a kick drum. And the reason I picked it up is because he's done something similar in one of the previous reactions. So the kick drum started coming up in between those accents. Then you had kind of the full band essence join where it kept evolving in intensity. The guitar riff sort of echoing what was happening with the keys, but in a very aggressive way. The drive was really intense on that. And then you had the drummer going into kind of full double bass or double kick work. Have a listen out for that. Have a listen to how the drums evolve. The song is so chaotic and so busy, but they know the roles of each instrument really well. And that was a really smart way of almost increasing energy, increasing intensity in a song that started at such a high level anyway. Much more menacing as well in terms of the keys, less cheeky like it has been in the past. Visuals are incredible. So that's the Edgar Allan Poe reference.
Still the same old song.
Important there is the music kind of completely pulled back when that verse piece started and Flo started singing, but you had the bass doing that kind of rhythmic drone, if you will, and that kept the energy of the song, even though they pulled back a lot of the instrumentation, a lot of lights and shade, a lot of contrast, and then lyrically her saying, I hate what I've become, and every time I hear a lyric like that, I keep thinking back to some of the points in the letter about how they started out as this obviously great kind of relationship, and it just deteriorated. And I know this is written from Tuomas's opinion, so very interesting, but very emotional.
Take me
Interesting. There was something really. Let's start with the music. Musically, that was really, really great melody. There was a part where she did a vocal climb, and then Thomas almost let it back down again. So it was this build up, build up, build up, and then it was this kind of relief. So it's this up and down, and that's kind of the journey of emotions, if you will, as well. So musically, they're echoing in the sentiments of the meaning of the song as well, which is really good. Marco's doing an incredible job of staying with Flo on that, even though she's belting and she's going really, really, really hard, pushing a lot of air out from her chest register. And then some of the lyrics in there as well. I cannot cry on a shoulder because it's crying. It's like normally when you're sad, you have a shoulder to cry on. But if that option is no longer available, because that in itself is exhausted, you don't have any relief. There's no way of kind of getting that out. And then in the beginning of that, it was like kind of take me away, get away, fly away. It's like looking for an escape. Doesn't matter how it happens, just any way, just wants to get out of that situation. So musically and lyrically, this is very smart. Half time from the drummer now. Yeah. Second. My home was there and there, those medals of adventure. Don't want to pause during mid the thing, but it looks like he's like almost checking in on him. Like he's just like, because he knows obviously this is a serious song for him that's emotionally come from such a dark and troubled place. They all the stuff about them being a band and her being so distant and how they're like a family, that this moment alone signifies all of that. That's all you need to know. Love that lead in. That's that drop. That's that drop in the vocal lead. I'm going to go back as we're leading into a new piece now, but with that run out. But a lyric that I found probably really, really, really important is that I've got two faces, one for the world and one for God. I think that's kind of what he said. It's so tough because he's basically saying that he puts on a show, he puts on a front, it's like a mask. And there he is playing night after night. But what he actually feels and who he actually is couldn't be worlds further apart. Really great melody in this. Musicians are extremely tight. I think guitar's doing a lot of work at the moment with those lead-ins. It's the link, it's the missing link between all the pieces, because there are certain things that are constant, and that is the bass, the drums, and the keys. But I think the guitar's doing a really good job of providing impact at pulling a verse into a chorus or chorus into a bridge. He's doing an amazing job of purposeful playing. Back a bit, that made me a little emotional, that string piece. Strings are unique instruments, and that sounds like it's a bit lower, so it sounds like a cello, but the imperfections of when the tension on the bow starts bouncing around creates a lot of sadness. It's almost like a wobble. It's like when someone's voice cracks. It's the musical equivalent of that. But the chords that they're playing, or the scale that it's playing, is quite hopeful. So it's like sad, but you've still got this hopeful element inside. It's beautiful. This is powerful. Goosebumps.
With turquoise waterfalls, with beauty underneath the talk me beneath
That's quite poignant. This beautiful operatic falsetto that she's gone into, controlled vibrato, a lot of energy, consistency. That's really difficult there. Consistency when you're singing that high, and you're putting a significant amount of power into those notes for what they are. And she's singing "Tuck Me In Beneath the Pain." It's kind of like when it's like the beginning part of the song was like almost anger and confusion and frustration, and this is almost desperation. It's just there's no more anger left, you're exhausted, and it's in this moment of desperation. That's the Pits and Pendulum reference. Amazing orchestral work on this.
on the shore we sat and talked under the sea pale moon, whose guiding light chose you all.
It's beautiful. That light relief is gone, and now these emotions are stirred up again. The music's getting tense, very menacing.
I'm afraid, so afraid, being raped again and again and again. I know I will die alone, but loved. You live long enough to hear the sound of guns, long enough to find yourself screaming every night, long enough to see your friends betray you. For years, I've been strapped onto this altar. Now I only have 3 minutes and counting. I just wish the tide would catch me first, give me a death I always longed for.
Okay, I saw a couple comments saying keep a note on 3 minutes. So this is it's only halfway through the song, so that's not a countdown to the end of the song. What's the timestamp? It's just over 7 minutes. Oh, okay. 3 minutes, huh? This has become more like a musical, like a play, performance art. Lighting is doing work. Those choir echoes are really, really incredible. You see them in a lot of movies where they're trying to create tension, where they're trying to create an urgency in the song. And again, the guitar doing that awesome job of just smashing out it's got a really aggressive tone on, which actually makes it difficult because it's easier to miss notes with, but he's doing a really good solid foundation of pulling all the other instrumentation together. amazing intensity there. Yeah, I mean, again, the drummer kind of doing that part of letting the musicians get to a point and then catching up with them, right? So Thomas is doing that erratic playing, the guitar's doing palm muting, certainly not at that level, but the minute the double bass comes in, they all pick it up. It's almost that it's like a pace. It's something that you could run to. It's like it creates this massive sense of urgency in the listener. And so much has happened already. It's just this wild journey. It's almost exhausting to listen to. It's good. Okay. So that whole thing of a second rubber to the right of Christ, that is, I initially thought of the crucifixion scene, but that doesn't make sense because there's only kind of one on each side. And I saw someone, one of the fans actually comment to say it's to do with the Last Supper. And if you look from their perspective, the second person to the right of Christ is Judas. And that whole story is about betrayal. So, oh God, that's good. Syncopated offbeat actions, those are cool. Dueling between the vocals. Awesome notes.
Today, in the year of our Lord 2005, two of us was called from the cares of the world. He stopped crying at the end of each beautiful day. The music he wrote had too long been without silence. He was found naked and dead, with a smile on his face, a pen, and 1,000 pages of erased text.
He's cool. 3 minutes. Dead on 3 minutes. That's his death in the song, and this is why the music's calmed down. It's almost like the pain's going to the next chapter. Very pretty, minimalist. What's working really nice is those alternating dun 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 on the accents of the kick drum and the snare. It's what pulls those two instruments together. I'm obsessed with how instruments communicate and how they pull together. Yeah. Clarity in her voice is phenomenal, and and that Be Still My Son, you're home. It's like, it's over, it's done, you don't have to worry anymore. That transition is beautiful. That standard play into that. It's almost got an air of eeriness to it, but it's still very pretty and very light. It sits right on the top of the mix. Oh, the harmonies on that. Just look at his face, man. The guy's like, he's living this song. I love how they gather around him to like almost support him. That airiness with this vocal creates like real sadness.
Thank you.
That's intense. It's beautiful. It's everything you guys promised it to be. Musically incredibly tight, so much contrast. That is not a song, that is a composition. It's gone far beyond songs at that point. Pure emotion. The knowing the backstory was hugely helpful. Reading the lyrics, I think we went about this the right way, and that was extremely impactful. I am not someone who necessarily is a very emotional person, and that's because I've gone through some quite tough things in my life that make you a bit cold to certain things. However, Thomas is someone who feels so deeply that he needs an outlet. He has to have one. And what better outlet than music? His emotion is infectious. It's you can't help but feel a slight bit of what he feels when he's feeling it, because of his passion, his ability, his technique, all of them. I don't want to just make this about him, because I know this is his glory at the moment, but they all did such an incredible job of that, and I think it is a real smart and necessary outlet for them as a band to kind of close off a chapter and start fresh and look at where they are. That was beautiful, so thank you so much for that. I hope I did it justice, and I hope you enjoyed. This is by no means the end of the Nightwish train. We have so much more to do, newer stuff, older stuff, So many songs I haven't even begun to think of yet that I'm sure you'll swing my way. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Till the next one, please be safe. Be extra nice to each other and have a damn good day.